Round 6 of the 2023 Formula One season comes to the Temple of Speed and the passionate home of Ferrari and its Tifosi fans, the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. And Ferrari came out swinging on Friday, debuting a B-Spec engine which has promised to be a complete overhaul of their previous design concept and should be a much-needed boost at a time of great pressure for the prancing horses. They won't be without challenge, however, as Audi continued to look strong in a straight line as they have done all season. But crucially, Red Bull and Porsche have appeared to have narrowed the gap even further this weekend, with both Gasly and Giovinazzi trading top times with Sainz. Last time out, the Porsche Works team struggled with race pace, but having looked at the data post-race, hope they have made the necessary adjustments to perform much better this time round. McLaren have been dealt a blow, on the other hand, with their major upgrade of the season being delayed. Zak Brown has admitted that, quote, even though the car is not any slower than it was at the start of the season, the others have all made steps to improve. The time gaps are literal tenths between P1 and P15, so we're going to have a real challenge this weekend to be on the right side of that. But with rain forecast for Sunday, however, it could open the entire race up to not only the British team, but every team on the grid. The Italian Grand Prix has always been a source of great action and drama at times in F1 MyDriver, and it's certain one or both will be in great supply on Sunday. At a place called the Temple of Speed, it was no surprise to find that the fastest man in Italy on Saturday was the Audi driver of Carlos Sainz, but the real story was the Ferrari of Mick Schumacher, who managed to go just 59 thousandths slower than the 2020 champion, a fantastic result for the hometown favorites. The Porsche power was clearly working well for the Red Bull of Pierre Gasly in P3, and the Tifosi pride continues on row 2 with Max Verstappen in 4th, giving both of the cars from Maranello a good shot at one of the best podiums on the calendar. The 2016 champion Stoffel Vandoorne is the leading Jag from row 3, with Sergio Perez missing the top 5 in Belgium by just 3 thousandths and the top 5 in qualifying here in Italy by just 200ths. Lead Porsche Works driver Pascal Wehrlein will line up in 7th with an identical time to the second Red Bull of Antonio Giovinazzi, who now finds himself firmly in the title fight after his win in Belgium. Championship leader aarava still hasn't won a race in 2023 and will have a hard time doing it from 9th position, and with Leclerc's Merc in 10th, that makes 8 different teams in the top 10 for today's race. Sebastian Vettel was furious about his qualifying results, starting 10 positions behind his teammate and only managing to go 21 thousandths quicker than the second Porsche of Lando Norris. With their teammates on row 5, it's George Russell and Daniel Ricciardo who will have to make do from row 7. It'll take something special for either of these championship contenders to even think about a top 5, never mind a podium. And on row 8, it's the second BMW of Jack Aitken with the second Jag of Alex Albon, both drivers a ways behind their teammates, but also less than 4 tenths off the pole time, showing just how close the field is here in Italy. And rounding out the field, it's the usual suspects, with Lundgaard going quickest in the battle between the Renaults and Astons, Ilott also on row 9, with Chadwick ahead of Ocon, and all 4 cars about 7 tenths slower than the Audi of Carlos Sainz.
Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 MyDriver Career Mode Season 9, round number 6 today for the Italian Grand Prix. If you guys did miss the previous one at the Belgium GP, then be sure to go check the one out before you see this one. As you can see though on your screens right now, the heavens have opened here at Monza, and we've got a wet race for the Italian GP. It looks like the forecast may turn to dry later on in the race, but we begin on the intermediate tyres. But we've got a very interesting starting grid. Ferrari with the massive B-Spec engine upgrade, so they're looking pretty damn decent, but it remains to be seen if they got the race pace in the dry, let alone in the wet, and what will this man be like in the race. Carlos Sainz, we know the Audi is decent in a straight line, but will the aero be good enough finally with Audi in the wet for them to hold on to that pole position and go forwards towards the race win? We'll have to see. For ourselves at McLaren, our major upgrade of the season has been delayed, so the qualifying pace wasn't too amazing, but I just know that with the slipstream around Italy, it's not going to matter too much. As long as we can kind of keep in range of everyone, we'll have a good chance of scoring points, and right now the consistency is all I really care about, because I feel like, you know, we don't need to focus on that missing race win quite yet. I feel like once that upgrade comes in for us as a team, that's when we can maybe pounce late on, as we have done many times before. But in the past, this Grand Prix specifically has been always a bit of a madness in F1 MyDriver, whether it be drama that, you know, causes chaos, or just the racing itself, and, you know, the resulting finish is always just quite a surprising one. So let's just not count our chickens quite yet, and anything could happen in this Grand Prix, and probably will happen. So let's just psych ourselves up and get ready as we go towards 5 red lights to the Italian Grand Prix. Over halfway through the season now as we go to 4 lights, and we're out and we're underway at a wet Italian Grand Prix. It's a great start for Charles Leclerc on the right hand side, as well as Giovinazzi into turn 1 though. Look at that, Mick Schumacher has had a great start from the front row. He goes into first place, Sainz down to second as we try and navigate turns 1 and then 2 on the outside of Leclerc, getting pinched a little bit by the monster Mercedes driver. We get up into P9 then, and so we recover somewhat in that first turn. Giovinazzi ahead of us then, but I believe on the minimap it is Mick Schumacher that leads the way ahead of Carlos Sainz, and you've got Pierre Gasly in third place, I believe. Hard to tell from that camera angle there, but Schumacher with a lightning start. And obviously we know how good his father was in the rain, so we'll see how good Mick Schumacher can be in the rain at the moment, leading the way. But of course, there's a long way to go. There will be a dry period eventually, so maybe if the Audi is suppressed a little bit at this stage of the GP with the kind of downforce needed for this part to navigate in the wet, maybe later on the Audi can come back through. But at the moment, yeah, it's Gasly in third. Then you've got Verstappen in P4 still holding on for dear life, but maybe not for too long, because Van Dorn, that is down the inside there in the Jaguar. Behind them is Wehrlein going down the inside of Sergio Perez. Wehrlein goes around the outside of 2 cars there, so the German with a fantastic overtake. Wehrlein up into what is P6, I think that was, ahead of Perez, and Verstappen looking slow once again, unfortunately, in this race, as we have a massive error on the exit of Ascari, and we're down to P10, and Norris is past us. So both Porsche Works cars looking good through Ascari, making the moves. We go very defensive on Leclerc now. That was a bad mistake from me, trying to get on the power way too early, and so we're down to P10. Meanwhile, back to the action up front. There is Sainz now squeezing Schumacher right very aggressively there, indeed, to the point where Schumacher is now side by side with Gasly, indeed. So now Sainz leads the way once again. He'll be happy about that. Gasly now on the exit. It's a drag race on that curve with between the Red Bull and Ferrari, but we cut back to our POV as we now look to maybe re-overtake Lando Norris ahead of us in the Porsche. Ahead of him is Verstappen, I think, already struggling, going all the way down the order to P8. So the Dutchman really not fancying this season at all. I don't know what it is. He's just having one of those off seasons, and so we come very close to the grass, trying to go on the left-hand side, but having to be very tentative on the entry because I don't want to make any kind of contact with Norris as he squeezes a fair amount on the left, but we get the job done eventually. And so we're back up into P9, and ahead we can just about see Verstappen versus Giovinazzi there, with the spray coming off. Those two are still going to be going at it as we go down towards then Parabolica. We've got Giovinazzi on the inside, Verstappen on the left, the long way around, but Gio gets the elbows out. The Red Bull obviously should have the downforce in the corners, I would feel, but of course the upgrades from Ferrari were very impressive in Saturday, so he could put up a good fight. Meanwhile, we're still looking behind us a little bit with Norris closing up, but we're gaining equally on Verstappen and Gio. We get boxed in nearly a little bit on the grass on the left-hand side, and we're trying to make this work, but these guys are dive-bombing so much. Look at Lando Norris there. He's trying to overtake Verstappen, so he tried to go for a triple overtake, that was Lando, and instead of me overtaking any of those cars, we've lost the position to Norris and almost lost the position to Leclerc. So at the moment, not faring too well in the wet conditions. Surprise, surprise. Obviously, if you guys have watched plenty of my videos in the past, you'll know I'm not the strongest in the wet conditions, so just about surviving, I think, is the best word, to be honest, as it stands. And to be fair, Ricciardo's also just only surviving in this Grand Prix, a little bit lower down the order. But yeah, ahead of me then is Giovinazzi, Norris, then Verstappen. Ahead of them is a bit of a gap, and then you've got Sergio Perez, Gasly, Schumacher. Wehrlein doing an insane job in third place in the Porsche at the moment, behind Van Dorn in second in that Jaguar, and then there's a big old gap to Sainz in first place, who's now, you know, had some breathing room essentially. But look at the move there with Wehrlein down the inside into Ascari. The two go side by side, and Wehrlein will get the position, and now he's up into second place, doing Porsche majorly proud. You know, they had upgrades last weekend, didn't work out for them in the race. Clearly they've rectified the issues, but now it's 3 wide into Parabolica as we've got Schumacher down the inside, Van Dorn on the outside. He gets squeezed out completely, and now will actually fall behind maybe Pierre Gasly, who's just about to stick it in there. But it's all kicking off now between P2 down to P5. You can throw a blanket over all 5 of them, because look at that, it's going to be 4 wide. Red Bull, the Ferrari, Porsche and Jaguar into turn 1. Gasly on the inside, Schumacher and Wehrlein squeezed in the middle like sardines there, and Van Dorn actually gets it really aggressive into turn 2 to keep his position there, and up so much so that the polystyrene board has now been broken off on the runoff area, and they're still going at it. But it's Wehrlein that is in second place then. Gasly trying to make a move on the outside for third, with Van Dorn tucked in behind, so it's kicking off in the top 5 positions, or top 6 rather, obviously from P2 down to P6. But for us, we're battling Sebastian Vettel, who's coming through this Grand Prix. He's got a damage, I think that is on the front wing on the right hand side there, you can see, but it's still looking very good in a straight line there. But I should have the kind of measure of him in the corners due to that damage. We're going to try a nice switchback move, brake early, try and turn the car in earlier, get on the power earlier, and then we're going to get that move done and get back up into 10th place. So a textbook switchback there for us in the wet. And so now can we try and get away from Vettel? Don't think so, because look at the way he's kind of hanging on the back of us there. That engine power is just allowing him to stay with us no matter how good we are in the corners. And now Leclerc may come knocking as well on the right-hand side, and Aitken is there in the BMW on the left, so nearly 4 wide as we go into towards turn 1. Leclerc down the inside, Vettel's cut across me, and we've hit the bollard, but there's yellow flags ahead, and the full safety car has been called out for an incident that was actually before the incident with Vettel, as we now come through and just about get ahead of Ricardo there, as he's unable to overtake under yellow flags. So he's now in the gravel, actually, as it's all kicked off there. I think Vettel's been stuck at turn 1. We've thankfully had no damage, but this was a replay of what occurred. This was ahead of us, and this was why the safety car got called out as I actually hit Vettel on the runoff area into the grass. Was the fight between P2 down to P6, Van Dorn into P2, Schumacher on the outside, but I think the closing speed of Leclerc there, you saw as Leclerc has massive damage hitting the back of on the car. So I think it was a concertina effect, and essentially the safety car got called out due to Leclerc, and I think the BMW of Perez potentially being held up into turn 1, but for whatever reason, really, I can't really determine it completely, the safety car is out, and this man Sainz has just continued on for another lap on his intermediates. But the thing is, it's started to dry out now to the point where maybe in 2 laps time under the safety car it might be dry enough for slicks, and Schumacher thinks that, as well as Van Dorn. There's one more car that continues on there, but most people are coming in, as will I, as my engineer calls me in for a set of soft tyres there. But you can see there on the top side, on the heads-up display, we've got a penalty that is a 5-second penalty to take with this pit stop. So my mechanics can't do anything to my car for 5 whole seconds, then they'll change the tyres, and that was for my collision with Sebastian Vettel, which I think is unjust, because I think Vettel moved in the brake zone, obviously to avoid the accident, which is fair play, but he did move in the brake zone ahead of me, and I couldn't do anything about it, and so that's why I hit him and went to the grass. I didn't come out with any damage, and I kind of technically gained an advantage, but it wasn't as much of an advantage as perhaps, Vettel could have gained if he kept on going on. So, bit of a weird one for me. So, I think a little bit unjust, but we come out anyway. We can't really do anything about that. We can't kind of, rectify that because the penalty's been taken in the race, so I can't call the stewards on it. So, at the moment, we're out then in P12 behind Albon. So, we're still roughly where we were, to be fair, but the order for sure has changed up ahead. Because leading the race then is Stoffel Van Dorn behind the safety car. Second place is Gasly. Perez in third. Sainz, having pit 1 lap later onto the slicks, is in down to P4. But Schumacher, the man who was leading the pack, really got held up then. He must have in the pits, because he's down in, I think, P6 or 7 there. So Van Dorn's really gained from that. Gasly as well, because he was down the order already. And Perez doing another great job in third place. And that BMW, which, on paper shouldn't really be there, but he's doing a great job. Obviously a low drag setup for BMW, so it makes kind of sense at Spa and at Bahrain how strong they were, and it makes sense that they're strong here now. But for us then, back to our kind of story, we're in P12. We're now behind Ocon in the Renault, because he came out somehow ahead of us, having made his pit stop 1 lap later. But we're now on the restart, and I should comfortably get Ocon, to be honest, in the Renault. Obviously one of the slowest cars on the grid this season, a stark difference to how the Renault team was last season in Season 8. And so on the restart, one of my best restarts ever, up into P11, massive dive into turn 1 there, as Albon's held up by the other Renault of Christian Lundgaard, as those two are now side by side. So up into P11, can we try and get maybe P9 even, as we get a good run off here. Albon is jockeying for position with Lundgaard, but look at the slipstream gain here. We're going to go on the right hand side to me, 3 wide here, very close, tyre different for the grass. We go the long way round, but look at the dive from Albon there to go side by side. We have to back out there, and in fact Ocon now somehow has had a very cheeky look on the outside of me, so we're now side by side with the Frenchman once again. So we're actually remaining in P11. For some reason the Renaults actually look pretty okay right now as they keep behind Albon and myself respectively there, and you can see Ocon having a little look on the right hand side. Meanwhile up ahead Albon Albon trying to get a toe to overtake Lundgaard. It looks like he might just send a late one to the inside. So those two side by side, that'll slow each other up so much. And so we swing through with the car planted to the floor there. And we get a great exit to overtake one and going for two now against Albon. Very close stuff. Tyre banging a little bit towards Parabolica. We're going to go on the outside. Big lunge. And we get the job done despite even missing the apex there, we get the job done as we get it wide on the exit. And we're up into P9. But they're closing up. And Albon's going to come back through as we set our personal best lap time. As, of course, the lap times will tumble down now. Look at Jack Aitken coming though at a rate of knots, showing how strong the Williams car is in a straight line. But whoa, what was that? As I think that was Lundgaard making some contact with me as he tried to re-overtake me. That was in the middle of myself and Albon, so that was very strange. Didn't expect that at all. But now we're under pressure from Jack Aitken, who's overtaken both of them. And like we said, the BMW looking very good in a straight line there. Low drag set up from the German outfit. But up ahead, there's a tasty battle brewing. 3 wide maybe between Giovinazzi, Schumacher and Norris. And Giovinazzi's tagged round and he's sideways and reverses onto the track. And we made contact with Giovinazzi. And so myself and Antonio we're out front wings. We're not out the Grand Prix. We're still going. We're going to get this out of the gravel trap. I was almost a little bit worried that our races were going to be completely over. But no, we both carry on. Virtual safety cars out. But a T-bone collision with the rear end of the Italian and his home GP. So that'll be frustrating for him, but massively frustrating for me as I was on the inside trying to re-overtake Aitken because he effectively, what happened was he overtook me. I tried to go for the switch from the right to the left at Ascari, and that would have worked, but obviously Giovinazzi was reversing onto the circuit basically, not kind of on purpose. I think he hit the wall and the momentum of him hitting the wall was taking him back onto the racing line, but I had nowhere to go, hit his rear end, and so both of us were out front wing. And so we come in for the second time now this afternoon, a front wing change, tyre change onto medium tyres, and I think the same thing for Giovinazzi. And so both myself and Giovinazzi now going to the end of the Grand Prix on this set of mediums, because I think the strategy would have been soft, but now it's soft medium, and we're going to maybe face some tyre wear at the end of this thing, and we're going to be massively down the order because that virtual safety car ended as we entered the pit lane. So the FI did not help us out at all, and so we had no kind of free pit stop there. So we have got a good amount of time to catch up. So I unfortunately think that might be our race over in terms of maybe the kind of, solid points here today, but never say never. You don't know. There could be another safety car that brings it back through, but for now, it's myself and Gio fighting for the wooden spoon then at the Italian GP. And we're getting down to business with fighting him straight away down the inside, jockeying for position. Maybe tension's a little bit higher now after that crash with both of us being in the championship fight, so a little bit annoying for both of us. But now going back to the race lead, Van Dorn trying his best to defend, but Sainz appearing to be too powerful. There, yellow flags flying about, but still some overtaking to be done as it now goes green, I think, for the rest of the straight. And it's Van Dorn versus Sainz on the inside. The Belgian man goes, and the Spaniard trying to defend, but he really gets very aggressive there in the Jaguar car on the inside. And then behind them is Schumacher, and I believe that is one of the Porsche Formula 1 cars of Pascal Wehrlein, who's now just made it 4 wide and gone around the outside of everyone. And now Pascal Wehrlein leads the Italian Grand Prix. Maybe no, Schumacher comes back through, so they're all ping-ponging around. And so now it's Wehrlein v Schumacher on the exit there. So the two Germans now scrapping away for the race lead, and Sainz and Van Dorn have had their pants pulled down by Wehrlein and Schumacher. Wehrlein on the outside, Schumacher on the right. Can it get it done? Who's going to be the last of the late breakers there? Schumacher's going to get it to the inside and retake the lead of the Italian Grand Prix in the Prancing Horse car. I'm sure that Tifosi was screaming loud and proud at this stage, but there's still a long way to go, and that Porsche Formula 1 car is looking very, very strong indeed in the hands of Wehrlein, at least. I mean, to be fair, Lando Norris, I think he's only just behind by a few positions, so both Porsches in the top 7 or 8 in this race. But there goes Wehrlein to the inside of Ascari, and he's comfortably into the lead then. But watch out for this slingshot effect that's going to come through on the left-hander. Schumacher gains, but even more so Sainz with a great vault, and he'll have a double toe from both these guys, and he's going to go to the inside. Yes, he will. He'll make it 3 wide, but I think he should get it on the entry. Oh, no, it's actually going to be a lot closer than I thought it was going to be, as Wehrlein gets really pinched by both drivers and goes literally left to right, hitting both cars and both side pods. And then in the background now, Van Dorn trying to get involved. Might be another 4 wide moment potentially. No, it's 3 wide between... What? Oh, Oh no, who's that coming through on the left-hand side? It's Lando Norris has come through. Schumacher tries to defend, but Lando Norris, where's he come from? Out of nowhere, from P5 to P1 there. I think that was a one straight. He's in second place now, but he's still gunning for it. So Verline's relegated to P4 then, and Van Dorn now is trying to defend from Gasly behind. Very surprised for Norris. And look at this round the outside. He gets the job done. Lando Norris breaking out into this Grand Prix and is now broken into the race lead of the Italian Grand Prix. Come out of nowhere, and he's done a stunning job. So Schumacher relegated once again to second place. Sainz in third once more, but now it's Verline who's down in P4, and Norris is the one that leads, but not for too long. Schumacher gets it back through with DRS just before Ascari, but Sainz is able to cheekily get it through to the inside there as well and get up into second place. So it's now Schumacher from Sainz, Norris, Verline, and then I believe it's Van Dorn and Gasly close behind as we now move back to our POV, lap number 15 then. So Giovinazzi's actually overtaken us once again, but we're getting faster and faster now through this Grand Prix. But you can see we've got a massive gap to anyone, so we're in a world of our own. But just a little update then on our personal race and how we're doing. But we're pretty much in no man's land with Giovinazzi, trying to use him as a bit of a horse and carriage to pull us along on the straights. But back to this fight then for first place, and it's all kicking off now. It's between Verline and Sainz as it stands for the race lead, but Lando Norris is close behind, as well as the BMW Sergio Perez, who will come in for the pit stop. Of course, these guys all have to pit once again, because like I said, the strategy was going to be 2 sets of soft tyres, so Perez is in, as well as Schumacher, Norris, Gasly as well. Van Dorn continues on with Jack Aitken, as well as Verline and Sainz, who are still battling for first place as it is, as they're squabbling and wheel banging and jockeying for position. All the superlatives I can think of really for this battle that's going on, but it's been absolutely insane. It's been, what, the top 6 or 7 or 8 fighting for all those top 8 positions. You love to see it. It's really crazy though to keep up with. But back to our POV, lap number 17, 10 laps to go, and we're closing up on Giovinazzi now. We overtake some cars finally. We see some civilization in this race. We send one to the inside of the Italian to get up into P16, but he's got it on the inside to be fair, so this squabble is still going on. But now the cars behind us are all on fresh soft, so even though they're in slower Aston Martin and Renault cars, they may actually come through and attack us a little bit once our tyre wear starts to kick in. So that will be something to look on for at the end of the Grand Prix. Meanwhile though, this is Sergio Perez coming through to overtake, that is Verline, and that is Perez up into first place of this Grand Prix. The undercut has worked out supremely. So it's Perez, some Verline, Gasly, Norris side by side with Schumacher, and Sainz has had a horrendous in-lap on that pit strategy, and he's way down in P6 now. Obviously, he's got the overriding straight line speed advantage, so don't count him out quite yet, but ahead of him is a good scrap going on between one of the Porsches and the Ferrari of Schumacher. Not too sure which one it is. I think it's Lando Norris there. Yes, it is. And now Sainz dives down the inside, and he's going to get it. Is he? Is the improvements to the Audi maybe show out? No, not quite. Doesn't quite get that, but the Audi's going for it, so Sainz clearly has some confidence in his car in the corners. As every race has gone by in this season, the Audi has got better and better in the corners. But meanwhile, back to this little weird fight, I must say, between both Aston Martins, who have overtaken myself and Giovinazzi at this stage, I might add, because that's how much the tyre wear is affecting myself and Gio. Gio's only just about hanging on ahead of that Renault there, and I'm just sitting back and trying to kind of pull myself in to these two Aston Martin cars of Jamie Chadwick and Callum Ilott, who are still scrapping away. But we now move back to the top fight, and this is actually a little bit later in the race. Now we're within 7 laps of the race end, and look who's in first place. It's Carlos Sainz, and the 2 Porsche Formula 1 cars are behind him for 2-3 though. So we've got Norris and Verline side by side. Verline dives a dive down the inside of Sainz, and Sainz is into the gravel. Oh my lord, and so it's all been flipped on its head once again. So Sainz, he was in first, he was down to 6th place, and now he's back down the order because that man Pascal Verline there, who's side by side with his teammate Lando Norris, sent a worldly dive bomb to the inside of Ascari. I think that pressurized Sainz into a mistake there, and then Sainz with such a horrendous double lockup. And so the 2 Porsche Formula 1 cars are battling for the legit race lead, unlike was the case at Bahrain in the first race all those times ago now where they were battling, but it wasn't really for actual position because they're yet to pit. They've pit. They're going to the end of this race. So now you've got Sergio Perez getting the mix. It's Perez versus the two Porsche cars for 1, 2, and 3 in this race, just as it was at the very start of this season. But this time, it really is for first, second, and third here, as Lando Norris leads, I think that is. Yes, he's just got ahead. He defends very aggressively ahead of Sergio Perez in second place. Verline down to third. Behind them, you've got Schumacher fighting Jack Aitken in the other Williams car. And, oh, no! Oh, no, 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 don't tell me. No, Lando Norris has got an engine failure. He was in the lead, and from the lead, he has a massive failure. He's held up everyone as well. Controversy here as Norris holds up the entire pack, and so Sergio Perez has waltzed away in the distance. Verline second place now as Lando holds them all up, though. Now he's trundling along and limping through to find the escape road, but an engine failure for him as the Brits got into the lead of the Grand Prix, and he DNFs out of that lead of the GP. But look at this now, Sergio Perez with a massive gap in first place, all thanks to Norris holding up this entire pack. So it's Perez, then Verline second place, Schumacher, then you've got Jack Aitken, the other BMW Williams, showing the BMW just a very good slippery car in a straight line here today. Then it's Gasly, then you've got Sainz v Van Dorn as Sainz is coming back into this race, having been in the gravel trap. Thanks to Norris bunching everyone up, he effectively became a safety car for everyone, and so Sainz is up the order. Vettel as well getting in the mix as Vettel's trying to go around the outside of Van Dorn now into Parabolka, and behind them some scrapping going on between Ricciardo, my teammate, and other cars. But back to this fight then for the second place in the Grand Prix, Verline v Schumacher. But here comes Jack Aitken down the inside, and it's now technically a 1-2 for BMW at the Italian Grand Prix. You cannot write this stuff, and look at the disgusting dive bomb from Carlos Sainz to get down the inside of Mick Schumacher, and so Sainz forces himself up into the top 4 positions here. Taking a quick breather though from that top 5, we move back to our POV now, lap 25 then. So we've got 3 laps left in this Grand Prix, still got the 2 Aston Martins scrapping away. Ilott behind Jamie Chadwick and Giovinazzi trying to overtake me, but we get a good slingshot here, and strangely we're setting the personal best lap time now. So myself and Gio are speeding up now, so this is the kind of, the thing with the mystery of these tyres. They are very, just a bit of black art there. So we now go down the inside. Giovinazzi's dived down inside actually as I took the racing line to defend against the 2 Aston Martins. Gio's got me, but we're going to swing through now and go through and get back up into P14 if we can. We're side by side through Ascari, so despite even having that crash, we're still battling hard for as many positions as we can as we're up into P14 then. Giovinazzi P15 ahead of the 2 Aston Martins, but it will be for no points unfortunately. But this man will get all the points today. Sergio Perez in first place, but for second place is Sainz, who's just overtaken Aitken on the last lap this is as well. So that's so harsh to the young Brit in the BMW there. He's down to third, Sainz up into second place there, so he'll take the lead of the championship with this. But Aitken tries to get back down the inside. He's now neck and neck. It's going to be a photo finish, a run to the line. Can Jack Aitken make it a 1-2 for BMW? No, he can't. Carlos Sainz will come through. Vettel in the end as well comes down the order. So how will that end up? I'm not too sure. I think Sainz got second place, I'm pretty sure. But Vettel tried to get Aitken on the end. But this man has won the Italian Grand Prix. Sergio Perez, his 5th win of his F1 career in F1 MyDriver. But his last win was 3 seasons ago in MyDriver Season 6 at the Austrian Grand Prix. So it's been a long, long while since Perez won in F1 MyDriver. It's been a long while since he was in that Audi car, remember, back in the day. But here he is now, top step of the podium once again in the BMW Williams. They said, the team said they were going to try and give him a car that could fight at the top on occasion maybe. And my word, this race has come through. The BMW was so slippery in a straight line. It was lightning there. But you got to admit, he also did get helped out majorly by Norris and that incident he had with his engine failure. But in the end, it is Sergio Perez from Carlos Sainz in second. Jack Aitken does get third place and on the podium, so a double podium for BMW. Verline P4 in the Porsche. He'll be very happy with that because Schumacher's P5 because Vettel had a 5-second time penalty. I don't know what for exactly, but he's down to P6 with that penalty. Gasly P7, Van Dorn P8. Verstappen had a very low-key race, but he comes away with some more points for Ferrari, so fair play. Albon in 10th place, and rounding out the points is Esteban Ocon in 11th, and my teammate Ricciardo for 1 point. Myself and Giovinazzi not scoring behind Leclerc in P13. The running order then are the 2 Aston Martins, Renault, and then Lando Norris and Russell out of this Grand Prix. So that means quite a lot for the Drivers' Championship. That means Sainz now takes quite a decent lead in the championship in first place. We're down to second with Giovinazzi down to third. Ricciardo P4, so really just Sainz got shuffled up ahead. But Perez now jumps up into P5, level on points with Sebastian Vettel. Van Dorn 7th, Leclerc 8th, Verline up into P9, ahead of Gasly P10, Russell, and then Mick Schumacher climbs up into the top 12 for the first time in a long while with that decent, solid points finish. So for Ferrari, it maybe wasn't the poetic fairy tale ending they wanted for Ferrari, but they at least improved massively with that B-Spec engine in race pace terms. Also, Porsche could have been right up there if it wasn't for Norris DNFing and holding up his own teammate in second place, but that obviously created the chance for Sergio Perez to come through with a very insane first place at the Italian Grand Prix. Constructors' points then, Audi ahead of McLaren, so you know, without that upgrade, we will felt that this race, and if it continues on for next race, Audi are going to, you know, even Red Bull could close up to us, so we're going to have to try and do some damage limitation maybe next race if we don't get that upgrade next time out the Spanish Grand Prix. So Red Bull in third place, closing up a little bit, Jaguar P4, BMW now up into P5, so they're firmly in that kind of mid-pack fight, I guess, but also quite close to Jaguar, you must say, as well. Ferrari P6 ahead of Mercedes now, and Porsche, despite their best efforts, they're still down in P8, but it's so fine, so you got to feel for them in a way, that new German team in Formula 1, to be down in P8, because it's just so fine, so the margins are so close. But then Aston Martin P9 and Renault P10, so it all kicked off for the Italian Grand Prix. We had safety cars, virtual safety cars, crashes, spins, rain, slipstreaming, DNFing, and a crazy race winner. It had it all. Guys, if you did enjoy this episode, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.